Hi everyone, this is Anthony O'Flynn coming to you from the Sunshine Coast, and another incredible day here. And in this video I'll be discussing a specific aspect of navigating the shift and it's becoming increasingly demanding, this entire process that we're going through, and I think that there needs to be a greater attention given to our inner state. Many of us are trying to reform the outer world in terms of changing the status of the government, or attempting to create good government, or opting for peace, trying to promote peace. All these sorts of very worthy and necessary issues, and they are intrinsic to the co-creation of the new paradigm. But often it's at the expense of what's going on inside of us and what's going on in our inner world, our inner reality. And this is something that we really need to address if we're to actually move forward in our own genuine transformation. So this navigating the shift has become a more challenging process as we move into 2022, and it's actually due to the bifurcation of consciousness that's occurring. And this bifurcation or split in consciousness that's occurring, it's actually many of the people who are on this journey of awakening, people who are in the awakening community, that are actually sabotaging their own awakening, because they're not actually, at times, and this is a generalization, they're trying to take everybody else with them. They're trying to rescue everybody. They're trying to save everybody else. They're trying to awaken everybody else. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And this is a big lesson that we all need to learn. You are not responsible for the evolution of another. You're not responsible for saving another. And too often our attention is basically focused on trying to awaken or red pill or convert someone else to our own belief system, which is, it's counterproductive for our own evolution, and also it actually comes from a place of ignorance. And I don't use the word ignorance in a really negative context, but more that this belief behind it is often that we are actually trying in our own way at times to coerce someone, or to pressure someone, or to indoctrinate someone with our own belief system. And this is unadvisable and is, as I said, counterproductive for our own evolution. And why is that? Well, it's as counterproductive for creating peace as the opposite side of the coin, where we see all this coercion, manipulation, gaslighting, pressure from the authorities, from the medical mafia, all these groups, in attempting to coerce or convince people into taking up the magic potion. Well, attempting to do the opposite is the same level of consciousness. It's the same, it's coming from the same level. It's just a different version of it. And you're going to hear me talk a lot about this this theme in this process that we're going through, because I see many parallels that are occurring in the awakening movement that are like a flip side, or a different version of a same level of consciousness, just expressed in a different way. And I don't condemn or judge anyone for that. It's a blind spot, and you can't ever judge or condemn someone for that. But the point is that to get to a higher state, it means that we're letting go of many of our attitudes and many of our ways of being and many of our takes on what's going on in the world. And this is the greatest platform for evolution, really, that we could hope for in many ways, what's occurred since 2020. And I think that the Earth School is very challenging at the best of times. A lot of hardship, a lot of suffering. It's a masterclass, and we shouldn't ever forget that. But since the masterclass is now intensifying, we're starting to see, or at least I am, that there's actually also a greater opportunity for greater advancement on the soul journey, which is what's required for this genuine awakening. And it means to be at peace with the split, actually. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to stop loving people, stop having compassion for people, stop put a line through people's name, these sorts of things, because that doesn't necessarily need to change, although you will see people naturally fade out of your life as we move through this. It's actually inevitable. And for many people on this journey, this has happened repeatedly, like cycles of it as we go through this. And it's a perfectly natural aspect of evolution. And we should celebrate it and embrace it. And it doesn't mean that we are thinking ourselves to be superior to other people or judging other people, but that our consciousness is changing. It means that the outer reality changes with it, and that therefore the connections, the friendships, the relationships of all kinds will change as a consequence or as an effect of our own inner transformation. And we are often not aware of that. And our response can be the attempt to drag a certain person in our life because it's for their own good. But when we have that attitude, we're actually not having a truly compassionate attitude. And that's why this theme of compassion is going to be one of the big themes at the Easter retreat this year, which there's still places available. When we have that attitude that we should red pill someone, we should do this and so on, we are denying their own evolution. We're trying to hijack it, or to not allow them to go through their own process, to not allow them to learn their own lessons, to not allow them to honour their own soul journey, which of course is unique to each person on this planet. And therefore, people who are still asleep, they have a right to be in that state. They have a right to do whatever the government tells them. They have the right to do whatever the employer tells them. That's their own process that they're going through, and nothing is lost, nothing is wasted by this process. It's simply that their journey does not align perhaps with another person's. And this is not a bad thing at all. So people who are staying asleep in this way, personally, I don't consider it bad. There's an opportunity for radical transformation on the earth at this time. Not everyone came here to experience that. Not everyone will be able to experience that. Not everyone wants to experience that. And that's totally part of the divine tapestry, the divine plan. And to think otherwise it's actually very narrow-minded, and it doesn't honour where a certain person is at on their path of evolution. And it doesn't allow for their free will to express itself in whatever way it needs to or it wants to. And just because a person has a view that this is bad and so on, that this is of a lower thing, but it's not for that particular person. That lesson is incredibly important for that person. And too often we overlook that. And really, when we start to really go into these true states of compassion and see these things more through Ajna chakra, through the third eye, then there is less of a need to label everything. There's less of a need to judge everything, to categorize everything, to analyze everything. And for example, the mask mandates are not here in Queensland anymore, and there's still people wearing them. And so what? They're not hurting anybody. They're not really doing anyone any harm. And when I had this experience today. I was in a really big health food store, and a big one, and there were people in there wearing masks. And when I can connect with the place where I just observe, I don't need to label them, to judge them, to criticize them, to ridicule them, any of these things. It's actually very liberating. It's actually very, very, very sense of peace, because then I can just observe. There's somebody wearing a mask, and they're wearing a mask. Who am I to say what's right for them in that moment? And in another situation and so on. Okay, it's a very, very specific example. But my point is when we start to just accept what is going on around us and observe, then we are having less of a need to analyze things and work out if they're right or wrong according to our worldview. And some of these things are subjective, and yes, some of them are objective, of course. But the more we are not really attempting to rearrange things externally, we are focused more on what's happening internally. It brings us back to our primary focus, which is our own evolution. How are we contributing in that moment to furthering our own evolution? Because this really is a matter of stepping into our future self at an accelerated pace. How can we step into our future way of being at an accelerated pace? That's a very, very pertinent question to consider, because the faster we can do that, the more we will move into these higher frequencies and remain there, not just in states of meditation or on days when we're feeling good. We have a deeper equilibrium, and this equilibrium is actually something that keeps us centered. And I think many of us have really been taken out of this equilibrium in the last 2 years. I mean, I know there's moments where I have had things that have been very challenging, and I am obviously of the view that this is actually only going to intensify, at least in the short to medium term. There's a whole range of issues and world events that are unfolding now that are in motion that will bring a new, deeper range of challenges, which I'll speak about in another video. But the question we always have to ask is, how can I maintain my equilibrium? And this will be where our true inner power is. And instead of trying to change the external world to suit with our inner demands, our inner desires, then we see that it's just a projection. And this is really a major theme and will become increasingly more prominent in the awakening community, of the externalization of inner issues, of inner turmoil, or basically a projection, as Jung would define it, that we are experiencing ourselves externally, but too much of that is still unconscious, too much of that is still, we're not aware of what our inner drive is, the inner drivers that are pushing us to take this action, to hold this worldview. And this spiritual transformation is at the essence, at the core of what is occurring in this global awakening now. And we are in this turmoil. Even if we're not aware of it, we are actually seeking this centeredness, this balance, this equilibrium, which gives us a certain way to power through the various challenges we're faced with. And the realization that this divine plan that's unfolding is going perfectly according to plan. And this is incredibly confusing for the mind, and incredibly confronting, that the Creator, the universe, God, whatever name you want to give to it, would allow such treachery on this planet, that would allow evil to flourish, and would allow this darkness to become so prolific, and to allow this dominance of this. But in any cycle, there is this dominance, but once it peaks, it fades. And we are moments, days, weeks, months, years away from that peaking. And we will only know when it has peaked when we see it in the rear vision mirror. that we see it going behind us, in essence. And it's my view that and it's a contention of my book, that this paradigm of this dark rulership of this planet will peak and subside in 2020 to 2040. I don't think we've peaked yet. I think that some of the plans that are being unleashed now are actually going to create the rapid chaos that is unplanned, and they, in their modelling, they think they have the plans to produce the results they want. I actually think that things will get so unsteady because of their meddling with everything from the economy to the weather, that it will trigger unexpected consequences, which will have completely radical create radical change in the process. So that's the final point I wanted to make, and to just really go into this feeling that whatever we're contributing to this global awakening is to do our part with joy, and to do it with love and compassion and enthusiasm and excitement, that this is such an incredible time to be on this planet. And through the adversity, the human spirit will thrive and will conquer this evil, and will emerge into a new paradigm that will have a magnificence that we have yet to see. And this is the reason why this life on this planet and this incarnation is the masterclass. It is the masterclass of evolution, and that's why we need to tend to our own garden and maintain these states of equilibrium, centeredness, balance through the chaos, the internal chaos and the external global chaos in our community, chaos in our state, in our country, and to attempt at all times to step into this future self, this higher vibration in our being, high state of consciousness, and to embody that and embrace these superior states of mind. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say for now. Thanks for watching, everyone. We live in epic times.